What if there were some questions you could ask to satisfy yourself that they are not imposters? The ATO typically asks questions about unpaid taxes to you. If they are unable to answer questions about the legitimacy of their authority, does this not raise concerns? Could you be in trouble for liaising with a company that's pretending to be a government authority, where it's registered as a trademark in the United States, where we can also see BlackRock as a main investor for this corporation? We have to ask ourselves, are there two governments, the Australian government and the government of the Commonwealth? The ATO will cite many acts that it is reliant upon, and it highlights the reliance on the Public Service Act 1999 and the Financial Management and Accountability Act 1997. What if those acts came from a parliament that was not in the original constitution? What if the royal assent ascribed to those acts came from a Governor-General of a parallel office of Governor-General? This poses questions about the origin of these acts and the legitimacy of the parliament that enacted them. We examine the historical periods when the government printed its own money from the Treasury instead of borrowing from private banks. One results in the people owning the infrastructure debt-free. The other involves paying taxes so the government can repay the banksters, and then they own the infrastructure. Private roads and tolls, anyone? Remember, the Income Tax Assessment Act only came along in 1936. How did the country survive before then? Here we find that there are multiple trading names for the ATO found in the ABN number lookup. We must note the differences in the registered address listed for the ATO compared to the one on their website. I might add, you can go into the About Me section on the ATO website right now where they cite willing participation. The Taxpayer Charter once read plainly that tax laws were voluntary. This has since been changed. It also discusses the change in charter and questions the laws that compel payment of tax. Two governments, two parliaments, two taxpayers. Why would one want to act as a taxpayer if they had a choice not to? And here's the answer. That choice is hidden from you. What if you had to become a taxpayer? Would that look like an application for a tax file number? What if the ATO treated your application like a tradable security, just as banks treat loan agreements? They then sell it on into a mutual fund, getting paid up front and then collecting taxes for your working life and forwarding them on to the buyers as a return on their investment. How would you feel about that? Some tricky questions for the ATO that they might struggle to answer. 1. Is the ATO lawfully constituted by the Parliament named and defined within the Commonwealth of Australia Act 1900? 2. Does the ATO serve the government of the Commonwealth as referenced within the Commonwealth of Australia Constitution Act 1900? 3. Is today's office of the Governor-General a parallel office to the office of Governor-General and Commander-in-Chief of the Commonwealth of Australia established 29th of October 1900? If so, how do the acts the ATO rely upon have any validity? 4. Is the taxpayer a living being to the exclusion of all others? 5. Can the taxpayer actually perform manual labour and expend effort? This is all pertaining to the idea that the laws of modern day may apply to legal persons rather than living man and woman, for which there are many references in the Bible pertaining to persons not being recognised by God. If the taxpayer turned out to be a separate entity, would that mean that it does not have your physical or mental capacity to perform work? Then which entity actually earns income? Which entity gets out of bed at 6 a.m. working 40 hours a week? The banks will not create a bank account for you, the living man, meaning that there's another identity that's not you. When your employer pays you, guess which entity really gets paid? In closing, I will leave you with 3 biblical verses referencing persons or lack thereof in God's eyes. What I find most interesting to note is Romans chapter 2 verse 11, for there is no respect of persons with God. James 2, don't know the verse, but if ye take personas, ye commit sin and be convicted of the law as transgressors. Acts 10 verse 34, Peter said, in truth, I have found that God is no acceptor of persons. And another interesting one that I find relates to conditional acceptance, Matthew 5 verse 22. Be allied with your plaintiff quickly, while you are with him, lest he deliver you to the judge, and the judge delivers you to the tax collector, and you fall into prison. Franz Boas, if you record enough facts, the truth will fall to you like ripe fruit. And closing from Sir Harry Talbot Gibbs, an ex-judge, I therefore have come to the conclusion that the current legal and political system in use in Australia and its state territories have no basis in law.